I'm going to talk about and demo this this Topsy app. I wanted to get something in the App Store. It's been a personal goal of mine for a couple of years. I keep putting it off. I tinker, I build half an app, and then I just drop it and do other things. And a lot going on. In fact, we had 3 weddings in the last 2 months. 3 of our kids got married, so it's been really crazy. But we made it through, and yeah. So I want to get something done, but not, I didn't want something cheap or ugly or something I couldn't be proud of. I didn't want to just throw something together and throw it in the store. To do this goal, I wanted something that was nice but very basic, MVP, very simple. And so here's some links, and these slides, you can get to them at slides.com/Todd Hale. And then there's several presentations there. This one is Ionic 4 app. I'll put links to it in the meetup comments also. All right, background real quickly. I'm really into word games. And if you take Todd Hale and scramble the letters, it's Adult Head. So that's my username on a lot of platforms and systems, very self-deprecating. Full stack web application developer, 18 years Exactware plus 8 years at Novell. That's where Brett and I met. We also crossed paths at BYU before that. Part-time instructor in MTech, you got that. I love mobile projects and rapid application development. I always have. I remember back at Novell, we bought some company up here in Sandy or something, and it was a Macintosh-based GUI drop thing, and that, even way back then, it was just like, whoa, this is cool. But I've been into rapid application development for a long time. Ionic and Firebase is just so easy to put something together, and whether you're doing proof of concept or you're actually building it out to deploy. They say that like 95% of apps in the App Store could be done with Ionic. It's the ones that you shouldn't do, or the AR, VR. They can be done, but yeah, they're going to be slow frame rates and stuff like that. Not as responsive. You want to definitely go native on those. And then also, if you got small budgets, small staff, Ionic is amazing because I'll show you the code base, and I've built it for iOS, Android, and the web. It's deployed on Firebase hosting. I'll show you that. So one code base for all of it. Real slick. I've got experience with internationalization, progressive web apps, material design, Java, SQL, and those are my hobbies. If you'd like to chat about those after, we can do that. Let's see. So again, my goal was, I wanted me and Brett put together a workshop last October, November, and we wanted to teach the newest version of Ionic 4, which was even alpha or something before that when we did that. And I haven't gotten the email yet. I'm feeling a little bit left out, but apparently today they actually went full live 4.0 release. So it's been alpha and then beta and release candidates and all that, but it's been great. The Angular especially, the support for React and Vue is mostly there, and you can build stuff with it, but they're tooling it better for those environments, and they'll announce when it's fully supported soon. So my goal with this, again, I figured this is a good project. Just want to play poker dice, and you're not supposed to say Yahtzee because that's all trademarked and copyrighted and stuff like that. And I had to take it out of my description in the Play Store because, that whole game. It's like Kleenex, It's a tissue. It's not. Anyways, poker dice, been around forever. I wanted to use some native features and make sure that the sounds were really responsive and not like tap and delay before. I want to make sure it was native, it was fast, and then when you got sound off, you know, you want a few vibrations here and there. And so if they do get 5 of a kind, and you'll, since I couldn't call it Yahtzee, it's 5 of a kind. It says 5 oak, O-A-K, of a kind, and some other things you'll notice. But you know, I wanted to make sure the user had, if they had the sound off, that it, you know, buzzed at them. Hey, because you can score it, you can misscore it. You want to make sure you know you got 5 of a kind. I want to be able to save the high score, so it's always there, and keep track of your stats, you know, basic stats. And then a help page for the scoring rules for those who aren't familiar with poker dice. And I wanted to make sure it felt solid and didn't feel like some web app that, you know, you want it to be responsive, you want it to fill the screen, all those things. But you want it to feel solid. You don't want it to feel squishy like a web page. And so I worked hard on that. A lot of CSS tweaks. And then I wanted to run on web, iOS, and Android, all 3. When I got it done, I packaged it up and I put it in the Google Play Store. And I have a developer account with Apple Store, but I haven't gone through the hoops yet to submit it. I'm going to do that soon. But it's ready, and I've got it running on my phone, my iPhone. So minimum viable product, if you're not familiar, it's, you know, I've got a whole list of other features, things I want to do with this app, of course. You know, you want to be able to challenge somebody, send them an invitation, see who gets the highest score, all those things, you know, turn-based games. So it has to be networked, you have to have a database to store the state of the game and all that stuff. So that's all, it's all in my to-do, my backlog, my product backlog, but it wasn't part of MVP. Just wanted to get this done and get it in the App Store and see, just learn all the new nuances of Ionic 4 and Angular 6 and then 7. I started this in Angular 6 and updated it to 7. That was really smooth. That was pretty easy. So let's jump over and take a look at some code and things. Well, let me just start with the finished product. And so we don't have the sounds here, but I'll have to show it to you afterwards. Usually we got sounds for the system, but I haven't been able to get it to work. Maybe, actually, you know, let me try to just crank up mine a little bit, my machine here. All right. So you come out here and, well, you know, let's go back and restart the game here. So you come out, and this game is, you roll the dice, you get 3 rolls, and then you got to score. And so you got to fit it in one of those categories. You either count the total number of ones, so you get up to 5 points there if you get all 5 ones. And so that's just summing up that number on the dice. And then you got 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, full house, 4 straight, 4 in a row, small straight, 5 straight, 5 of a kind. That's the big money, and then any is the chance or just the total of the dice. It's just kind of a catch-all place. And so you get 3 rolls. That's what the green circles are for. Yeah, you can hear that. You know, and try to make it a little bit engaging. And all right, I didn't get 3 of anything. I'm just going to throw that in the catch-all. The thing is, this bonus down the left side, you only get that if you get 63 points in the left column, and that's if you get 3 of everything, you get the bonus. But anyway, that's there's just the 2 main screens here, and it saves the state, even the dice and everything. And then I added a scoring help to explain how each of the categories are scored. Yeah, and so this right here, if you look at the URL, it's Firebase hosted, and so that's the project name is topsy-some random number.firebaseapp.com. And later on, if you want, we can take a look at how to deploy to Firebase. But right now, we just want to look at the code and not focus on the hosting. So again, we've got 3 pages is all, and then a couple services. and yeah, one for audio and one for the whole game state. It just handles all of the game stuff. So I use WebStorm, and that's some of my notes there. Oh, and I need to make that bigger. Well, there is a presentation mode. We can. I don't know if it does the project side though. Seems like it doesn't. Yeah, the view. Full presentation mode.
And then hit Command 1, and then that will.
Hey, all right.
There you go.
Professional. There you go. Yep. So, if you go, the first resource I've got listed on the slides here is the docs. I mean, you go there. It has how to install it, and then how to type a command that creates your first app. And it comes up, and there's different starters you can use with a couple different pages. Like if you want 3 tabs along the bottom, or if you want a side menu, they have different starters, and you run that. It builds a whole bunch of stuff. It installs a whole bunch of NPM modules, and you're ready to go. So it's really quick and easy to get the basics down. And so it builds the source directory. It gives you these are end-to-end tests. The functions, that's a Firebase thing. You can ignore that for now. Releases, that's where it. That's some of my stuff. When I was getting it ready to put in the app stores, I had to create some privacy policies, terms and conditions, icons, and stuff like that. And so it's not part of the app. It's part of the distribution in the app store. So that's what that is. That's not created for you. Resources is created, and they give you a default icon and splash PNG. And you want to replace those with large versions of an icon and a splash screen. And Ionic has some built-in commands that'll let you just run the command, and boom, it whips out like 20 different sizes, which are required by the app stores when you submit. And they're all packaged. It's for release in the app stores for because different devices have different resolutions and all that, need different size icons. The source directory is that's where you're working. That's the code. The app specifically is where all the pages are and services and things. And then the assets, that's where you drop your icons and sounds. And so I've got several different. Let me see. One of the I think when I released on the web, it was hard-coded somewhere to look for the fave icon, which is what shows up in your browser up here. So this little tiny icon way up here on top, that's the fave icon. So it had to be in that place. So I've got other icons just floating around here. Got some SVG dice, and there. You can't even see that. Oh, that's the 0. That's an. Yeah, the 0 is just a transparent pixel. It's to display. It's a placeholder for the dice when there is no dice in there. So this is where you put, like when you're building a website, that's where you put your static assets that you want to access from inside the app. Environments I'm not using right now, but it lets you differentiate between a test environment and a production environment. You can set some different things, different flags in there. We're not going to really talk about that, but it's all part of the structure that Ionic builds for you by default. It's there. Theme. This is the basic SAS file for Ionic. Comes with primary colors, secondary colors, tertiary, success, warning, danger, dark, medium, light. So Ionic, it includes tools to build the app, as well as a whole bunch of widgets and styling already done for you. So you can, number one, throw something together quickly. Number two, have one file to go in and change. If you want to change the theme of your app, the colors, color scheme, color theme, you could do most of that just in this one file, and then throughout your app, you use some of these tags for the coloring, and yeah, it's really easy to switch themes and go dark and everything like that, the way they've done it. And it includes most of these files here, global SAS file. So besides the theme, if you want to set some CSS styling in one place for the whole app that's shared everywhere, you do it here, because everything's very modular, and each of the pages, these first three folders right here are pages, and then there's a couple services in here, audio and game service. So each page that you create, again with the Ionic command line, it's very similar to Angular if you've done that before. It creates all 5 of these files for you for every page you create. And this is all Angular specific stuff. I'm not going to go too deep into that, just to know that each of these is its own separate module in Angular. And so there's some module definition, short and simple there. There's the main template for the page. And this is when you use Ionic, you get all of these tags, custom tags that they're cross-platform and they look great on mobile devices. And they've even done some work to make them look good on tablets and desktops as well. So that's the main template there. And okay, and then there's this is what I was getting at. You've got down here we have this global styling sheet, but each module, each page has its own styling sheet. And if you only have things to design for that one page, it goes in that page right there. So I've got a few things specific to the home page. Just put some styles in there. And the spec.ts is a test file. I haven't written any tests for this. This is just the default. It loads. It just tests that the module loads. That's what, I haven't touched that. And then this is if you're familiar with Ionic 1, this is the controller portion. This is the TypeScript. It's tied to this template, so it has the different, like the Ion view did enter. When a page loads, it'll fire this off and preload a sound here so that it's ready to play as soon as they hit a button. And then there's a couple of functions I wrote when they tap on a button. They're either restarting a game or playing a game, starting a new game. And again, there's a lot of sound interaction. So when they hit either button, it plays a sound. And then, the game service has most of the functionality of the game in it. You see there's a reset game. And then when that's done, when the reset is done running, it comes back, and either way, whether it's a success or a fail, it routes you to the game screen. So that's if it succeeds or if it fails. And same thing down here on the start game. It's checking. A lot of specific things to the logic of the game, making sure that the game service has a state before it goes into the game. And but routing, so going from the home page to the game screen page, which you see over here on the left, there's home. That's the first page we got to, and then we got the game screen page. Again, let's jump back. I'm a really visual person. So this is the home screen. These are the 2 buttons. One is to play or resume, and the other one is to restart the game. And so there's that page, and then when you click on it, got these all over the place. The router, we're navigating to the game screen page. And that's all. Oh, also, so down here in the main space of the app, or the global space, you've got a couple other important things to look at. Let's see. Okay, well, actually right here. We've got the global app module. So the whole app has a module, and then each of the pages have a module. And then there's this thing called the app routing module. That's where you set up at the top there, where you define all the routes available in the app. And you see 4 of them listed there. First one is just a catch-all. It's a default. It's like if they try to, let me see. Yeah, if they just come in without a path on there, they just go to your server or your directory name, it'll route them to /home. So it'll do that. And then the other 3 specify the modules for each of the pages. So now they're all available, and anywhere in the app, if they click on a button or if they do something certain, the game's over, it can, boom, you can tell the router to take them to one of those pages. Makes them available throughout the app for routing. Stop me if you have any questions. I'm really going through it quickly to give you an overview of the Ionic 4 basic app. But like for example, there's you can make Ionic apps so that when it loads, it loads everything, all of the pages, all at once. It makes it a little slower to load the first time. And with a really small app like this, it's probably not even noticeable, or I didn't even need to do this, but by default, they set up the routes this way, and this is called lazy loading. So the home screen comes up, and it's the only thing that's loaded. And then these routes are defined, but they're not loaded into memory yet. So you haven't wasted any time getting that first screen up and going. So that's good.
So I was going exactly where you were going, where I was going to ask. So you were talking about like the sound.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, those are a little bit bigger files.
Uh-huh.
I'm guessing like once you hit start game, it lazy loads those as opposed to doing it like with the initial screen coming up.
Yeah, the home page has one sound. It's got one sound that when you hit the buttons, it hits it. So it preloads one sound. And then as soon as you load the game screen, if you come over here to that page, to the script for that, look at that Ion view. It loads 9 sounds.
Wow.
So it loads all of them. They're all ready so that when they touch something,
Right there.
yeah, it's quick and it's really fast. It's all this stuff that you see on the left here, it's all packaged up basically into a zip file. That's what apps are. Packages them all up, and it can access. It's all loaded into memory-ish. The whole thing is loaded, but it's not actually run. Like we haven't run any of this game screen code when you load the app. It's only run the home screen code. So it makes it quick. But as soon as you tap on that button to start the game, it runs this for the first time, loads all these other sounds, and then they're ready. And it's quick. This is a really small app, so it's very responsive.
That was one of the features of Angular, the newest Angular. They adopted Angular routing and then dynamic loading of pages, which is a big win for Ionic apps, because I think that was one of the criticisms, the initial load was kind of slow compared to native apps. But now you can have a gigantic app and they all load about the same, because the first page comes up and you're up and running, and it doesn't load it until it needs it. So.
Yeah, and there's a little bit you have to learn with that, with the modules, and when do you declare a module and when do you import it in Angular. And so I had to kind of dance around on that a little bit and get it to work right, or to learn it myself. But it's all Angular. It's all Angular module. But again, high level. We load all these sounds. We've got these dice sounds. When you tap on a dice to lock it, so you can roll the other ones. There's 2 sounds. There's a click and a clack. You know, when you unselect it. So that's what those 2 sounds are. Scoring. If there's a score, if there's a 0 score, if you're tapping on something, I wanted it to sound a little lower and different. Audible clue. It's like it's either a tick, tick, tick when they're scoring, or it's a talk. You know, just so they knew. There was some feedback that maybe you didn't mean to tap on that one. It's a 0. And then, of course, if they get 5 of a kind, you gotta toot some horns and that kind of stuff. And so that's what that's for. And then game over, there's a separate sound. And then I wanted to I found 3 different rolling MP3s, dice rolling, just to give it a little variety, so it's not the same click every, 3 clicks every time. So that's what that all is. When they roll, yeah. Anyways, this is all game logic. Well, actually, this is the page logic for the game screen, and saving when they've actually. This is when they score. It saves, and then game over. We got to detect game over and play sounds and present you pop up an alert here. Then this is an Ionic. It's a native plugin, okay, and that's something we haven't talked about very much. I'll just mention it quickly. I need to wrap up and turn over to Brett. But I'm using an Ionic native JavaScript library to access the Cordova native plugin, and there's a couple commands you do to import the Cordova plugin, and then the native Ionic native layer. And then this is what you do with it. You just, in Angular style, up here in the constructor, I say, hey, I'm going to be doing an alert. So I inject it here. That makes it available on this page, the alert controller. And then down here, this is just how you define it and call it. So you define it there, and then you call it present. This just defines it, doesn't actually pop it up, and this pops it up.
Just for the benefit of those who are not familiar with Ionic, can you explain Cordova?
Yeah, Cordova. Let's see. Let's jump back to this slide here, because I mentioned it here. So this project was done in Ionic 4 with Angular 7. And they're tied very closely together. The version of Ionic you get, it's very tightly coupled with a certain version of Angular. And they went to 7 about just a month ago or a month and a half ago. And then Cordova is open source Apache project. I'm trying to think of it as a whole. What is it? It's a whole bunch of plugins.
Well, it's a wrapper around. It lets you call from a JavaScript platform. Lets you call native functionality.
Yes.
So that's where it bridges from an iPhone and an Android. You can now call like a camera, or like your music, or social media, or other different plugins that are native to the platform. And so Cordova lets people write these plugins and said, okay, for Android, here's the APIs to call the camera. And then from your JavaScript, you can just initialize that.
And there's like over 100 plugins. There's just, and someone has to write an Android version and a binary. It's a library. And they have to write an iOS version and anything else they want to support.
Yeah.
And
the web browser is a sandbox. You can't, from a normal web app, you cannot access the hardware directly on any computer. And the Cordova is that bridge to get to the hardware, like the camera, the vibration, the GPS type of stuff. All of that stuff that's outside of the normal domain of the web app.
yeah, so for one example, like if you're going to do geolocation, if you want to know the user's location, if you don't use Cordova, you can still deploy this, and it will. Ionic itself is a web view. It creates an application with a web view, and your app runs in that web view. And but like I said, Cordova lets you call native functions from inside there. Now, if we didn't use any Cordova, if we just, like the geolocation, you can make a browser call and say, what's my location? And you'll get a browser's accuracy level of location, which, isn't quite as good as a device's location. It's just a lot finer detailed. And the same with the photos. If you can upload photos, browsers will do that. You can, if you're on a mobile device, it will let you take a picture and upload that. But you just get a lot more rich feature set from the Cordova libraries accessing native features. Yeah.
So is it safe to say then that Cordova's running under the hood and then it's reaching into something written in Swift or in
Mhm.
Java
Yep.
to access those
And
functionalities?
those are all, yeah, and those libraries, those bundles are individually added to your application and bundled all into the app. So it's all part of that same, all one package.
And that's what Ionic is doing.
And that's what Ionic helps do. You can do it without Ionic. You could use Cordova and use Vue and use Bootstrap, and you could build an app and do all these same things. But Ionic has better tooling, command lines and build tools, and then they have the GUI. It's better than Bootstrap for mobile devices. All right, so
Quick question?
yeah.
Yeah, just wondering about your audio, for example.
Uh-huh.
When you play it, you have obviously it uses a Cordova plugin for
Uh-huh.
the device, right?
Yeah.
But
Yep.
for your web app,
Uh-huh.
so does the plugin handle both, or do you have to use two different?
No, I have two code paths for that, and that if you look up Andrew McGivery's, he has a native audio tutorial. It's actually got some bugs in it. It always plays web. It never plays native. So it runs great in your browser if you download and run his tutorial and stuff. But so I've got this audio service that's based on his. And so it's got this preload, and then it's got this play. But if you'll notice, that both sections have if it's native. Okay, and that's just set when this service is created. We set it to false, and then the constructor checks. It checks Ionic platform service right here, injected, and then it sets it to true if it's in a Cordova environment. And so there's a way to know that. And so both of these functions down here, the preload and the play, they both have a separate section for how to load it and then how to play it. So if it's native, it calls the native audio plugin with a play, but if it's web, it has an audio player, which is set up, up here. So right there. And if you're not familiar with TypeScript, I'll just briefly mention that it's compiled to JavaScript. Angular takes care of that for you. So it's JavaScript with a bunch of extra features. That's what this file is. All right.
JavaScript done correctly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with strong, safe typing and a whole bunch. Basically anything in the new specs that aren't released for your browser yet, they get them into TypeScript and you can use them, and it compiles it down to JavaScript that your browser is happy with. So there's a lot to it. So I use Trello for my backlog, my features I want to do. I have different columns for backlog, to do, and done. Just a simple one-person project. And then WebStorm, of course you could use VS Code. It's great for Ionic. It's got a lot of plugin support for it. I used free sounds and graphics for most of it. I did pay a couple bucks for a 3DS file to make the main logo. And then, on the Apple, you use Xcode with its command line tools. And I also, I can build both of them from my machine to Android or Apple using Java, JDK, and Chrome and Safari developer tools. I'm not going to go into it because we're out of time from my stuff, but I can run the command to run it on either one, and it'll immediately deploy this package to the phone. And then if I'm on iPhone, I go into Safari, and you can debug and pull up a console on your Mac and see any messages for debugging sakes. So there's a lot of good connection tools for that. And then for the Android, use Chrome developer tools, same way. And as we said many times before, you spend 95% of your time just working on the UI and laying out the app on your machine in a web browser, and then you start putting it out on the devices and do your final testing out there. And then I wanted to make a push for the market, the Ionic market, because you can go out there and for $29 you can get a full app. And I was just looking at it, and I sorted by the newest first. I think I've got a tab here for it. And you know, you come in here and starters, you want to grab a starter project, it's a full app. And you click on newest, and it's like V3, V3, V3. So no one's put out their V4s starters yet, but you'll start seeing them here. And these are amazing apps. Let me just click on one. Featured. They're usually a little better. I don't know. So you click on it, you get a whole bunch of screens. This is only just a couple of them. But that one's pretty basic. But you can go through the market and find something and pull it down and then delete the pages you don't want. And you've got a nicely styled app, mostly done for you. Yeah, any other final questions about this project? Let's see, here it is in the Google Play Store. Basic. Here it is running like I showed you before. It's running on Firebase. Yeah, and then the Ionic docs. I had this tab open just to show you. That's how you install it. That's how you tell it to create a new project for you. And you get most of what I showed you in my project. And then how to run it. It's literally just 3 commands to create it and run it in the browser the first time. And we can do some of that after Brett's done if you want, if anybody's interested in seeing how that goes. And yeah, I'll wrap up with that and turn the time over to Brett.
There we go.